Listen to me closely. This is not a coincidence that you are hearing these words right now. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you in a way that will silence your doubts, humble your enemies, and restore your faith. You may have entered this month tired, confused, or even discouraged, but God did not bring you this far to abandon you now. Something is already moving in the unseen, and it is moving faster than you think. What you have been praying for in silence, what you have been crying about in the night, what you almost gave up believing for, God has heard it all. This is not a motivational idea. This is a divine reality. God specializes in sudden turnarounds, and sudden does not announce itself. It simply arrives. Many people think God works slowly, but they forget that God created time and is not limited by it. One moment you are struggling, and the next moment everything shifts. One moment doors are shut, and the next moment you are standing in rooms you never imagined entering. Before this month ends, God is about to compress years of waiting into days of manifestation. You may not feel it yet, but feeling has never been the requirement for faith. God moves whether you feel strong or weak, confident or uncertain. Your emotions do not dictate God's power. Your circumstances do not limit God's authority. God does not need permission from your situation to bless you. There are people listening to these words who have been faithful in private while feeling forgotten in public. You have been doing the right thing when no one noticed. You have been trusting God even when nothing seemed to change. Let me tell you something with absolute conviction. God has been watching everything. Not one tear was wasted. Not one prayer fell to the ground. Not one sacrifice went unseen. God is not unjust to forget your labor. And before this month ends, God is about to reveal why the delay was necessary. What felt like denial was preparation. What felt like silence was alignment. What felt like rejection was protection. You see, God never acts randomly. When God prepares a surprise, it is not just to bless you, it is to position you. God does not merely want to give you something. God wants to change you so that you can sustain what is coming. That is why some of you had to go through pressure. Pressure reveals capacity. Pressure strengthens faith. Pressure removes dependence on people and redirects trust back to God. If God had answered earlier, you might have missed the lesson. If God had moved sooner, you might not have been ready for the weight of the blessing. But now something has shifted. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with clarity. Confusion is about to lift. The fog that surrounded your decisions is about to clear. You will suddenly know what to do, where to go, and who to disconnect from. God is not a God of confusion. When God speaks, uncertainty dissolves. Some of you have been standing at a crossroads, afraid to move because you did not want to make the wrong choice. But God is about to confirm the direction so strongly that doubt will no longer have a voice. The same God who guided you before will guide you again. There are others who need to hear this clearly. God is about to surprise you financially. Not because you are greedy, but because you have been responsible. Not because you want excess, but because you have endured lack. God understands the pressure you have been under. God knows the nights you calculated expenses, the moments you wondered how you would survive, the times you smiled in front of others while worrying inside. Before this month ends, provision will come from an unexpected source. It may not look the way you imagined, but it will arrive right on time. God does not always use obvious channels. God uses obedient people, divine connections, and moments of favor. Favor is not something you earn. It is something God releases. When favor comes, doors open that effort could not unlock. When favor comes, people help you without understanding why. When favor comes, resistance disappears. Some of you have been trying so hard, pushing so much and getting nowhere. But God is about to remove the struggle from your effort. What was heavy will become light. What was difficult will become manageable. What was impossible will become accessible. That is what happens when God steps in. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you emotionally. Healing is coming to places you thought would always hurt. Memories that once triggered pain will lose their power. You will remember without bleeding. God does not erase your past, but God redeems it. The same experiences that tried to break you will become testimonies that strengthen others. Some of you have been carrying emotional wounds for years, wounds caused by betrayal, abandonment, or disappointment. You learn to function with the pain, but God never intended for you to live burdened. God is about to restore joy, not temporary happiness, but deep, steady peace. Peace is not the absence of problems, it is the presence of God. When God surrounds you with peace, chaos cannot dominate you. Storms may come, but they will not control you. You will no longer react to everything. You will no longer be easily shaken. God is maturing you, strengthening you, grounding you. And before this month ends, you will notice that things that once disturbed you no longer have authority over your emotions. That is growth. That is transformation. That is God at work. There are relationships that God is about to realign. Some connections will be restored, not because people suddenly changed, but because hearts were softened. Others will be removed, not as a punishment, but as a rescue. God knows who is assigned to your future and who is attached to your past. Trust God enough to let go of what God is removing. You do not need to fight to keep what God is trying to take away. What leaves now makes room for what is coming next. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with strength. You thought you were weak, but you were just tired. You thought you were finished, but you were only stretched. God never wastes a season. Even your exhaustion served a purpose. It taught you where your true source is. When your own strength ran out, you learned to rely on God. And now God is about to renew you, not just physically, but spiritually and mentally. Motivation will return, vision will return, hope will return. Some of you have been questioning your purpose. You wondered if your life truly mattered, if your efforts made any difference. Hear this clearly: God does not create meaningless lives. If you are still breathing, God is not finished. Your assignment is still active. Your purpose is still unfolding. God is about to remind you why you started, why you believed, why you endured. The fire that once burned brightly is about to be rekindled. Passion is returning. Direction is returning. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with acceleration. What took long before will now happen quickly. This does not mean you skipped steps. It means you completed them. You paid the price in patience. You learned the lessons in waiting, and now the season has changed. When seasons change, behavior must change. Do not cling to old expectations when God is doing a new thing. Stay alert. Stay sensitive. The opportunity may look small at first, but it will carry great potential. Some blessings do not come wrapped in excitement. They come wrapped in responsibility. God may surprise you with an assignment before God surprises you with applause. Do not despise small beginnings. God often tests faithfulness with little before releasing much. The way you handle what comes next will determine what follows after. Walk humbly, stay grateful, remain obedient. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with confirmation. You have been asking for a sign, and God knows it. You have been asking for reassurance, and God has heard you. Confirmation may come through a conversation, a message, a sudden understanding, or a door opening that cannot be denied. When it comes, you will know it was God. It will align too perfectly to be coincidence. It will answer questions you did not speak out loud. Let me tell you something important. Do not sabotage the surprise by doubting at the last moment. Many people lose faith right before the breakthrough. The pressure increases because the blessing is close. Resistance intensifies because change is near. Do not interpret difficulty as defeat. Sometimes the final test appears just before the reward. Stand firm, keep trusting, keep believing. God is not late. God is precise. God's timing is not designed to frustrate you, but to prepare you. Before this month ends, you will look back and realize that everything had to happen the way it did. The delays, the detours, the disappointments, they all shaped you into someone capable of receiving what God is about to release. You are stronger than you think. You are more prepared than you realize. Stay expectant. Expectation is the language of faith. When you expect, you position yourself to receive. Do not lower your expectation to match your past experiences. Raise your expectation to match God's ability. God is not limited by what happened before. What God did yesterday does not restrict what God can do today. This month will not end the same way it began. Even now, something is shifting in your favor. Even now, God is arranging details behind the scenes. Even now, answers are moving toward you. You may not see it, but you will feel it soon. The heaviness will lift. The tension will ease. The joy will return. And when the surprise arrives, you will understand why God asked you to trust without seeing, to believe without evidence, to endure without explanation. There is something powerful about the final days of a month. Time itself begins to testify. Every remaining day becomes pregnant with possibility. What you must understand is that God often waits until the end so that there is no confusion about the source. When it happens late, when it happens suddenly, when it happens against all odds, no one can claim credit. Not people, not effort alone, not luck, only God. And that is why you are standing where you are right now, on the edge of something you cannot yet see, but something that is already decided. God does not announce surprises in advance because advance notice would invite fear, overthinking, and interference. God moves quietly, deliberately, with authority. While you were focused on survival, God was focused on strategy. While you were praying for relief, God was preparing elevation. You thought you were being delayed, but in reality, you were being shielded from premature exposure. God knows the weight of what is coming, and God knows when you are strong enough to carry it. Some of you have been asking, why now? But a better question is, why not now? You have endured long enough. You have learned enough. You have grown enough. God is not obligated to explain every season, but God is faithful to complete every promise. The reason this moment feels intense is because transition is near. Nothing shifts without pressure. Nothing transforms without resistance. But resistance is not evidence that God is absent. It is evidence that something is being challenged. Before this month ends, God is about to confront what has been confronting you. The very thing that tried to intimidate you will lose its power. The situation that looked immovable will begin to respond. When God steps in, what was rigid becomes flexible. What was stubborn becomes cooperative. What was closed becomes accessible. God does not negotiate with obstacles. God overrides them. Understand this deeply. God is not reacting to your problems. God is responding to your faith. Faith is not loud declarations alone. Faith is persistence when nothing changes. Faith is obedience when it is uncomfortable. Faith is continuing to trust when logic argues otherwise. And that kind of faith moves God's hand, not because God is weak, but because God honors trust. There are moments when God deliberately allows you to reach the end of your own ability so that you can witness the beginning of divine intervention. You were never meant to carry everything alone. The pressure you felt was not to crush you, it was to push you towards surrender. And surrender is not giving up. Surrender is handing control back to God. The moment you did that, even quietly, even imperfectly, the shift began. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with restoration. Not just replacing what was lost, but restoring your confidence, your dignity, and your sense of worth. Some losses were not just external. They damaged how you saw yourself. You questioned your value. You doubted your capacity. But God never defined you by what you lost. God defined you by what God placed inside you. And nothing that happened took that away. Restoration does not always look like returning to the old version of life. Sometimes restoration means God gives you something better than what you had, but different from what you expected. Do not resist new forms of blessing just because they do not resemble the past. God is not obligated to repeat history. God is free to do something greater. There are people listening who have been faithful in prayer but impatient in expectation. You believe God could do it, but you struggled to believe God would do it for you. That quiet sense of unworthiness has been a barrier. But hear this clearly. God's generosity is not triggered by your perfection. God's mercy is not limited by your mistakes. God blesses because God is good, not because you earned it flawlessly. Before this month ends, God is about to break cycles. Patterns that repeated for years are about to end. Struggles that felt inherited are about to stop with you. God is a God of generations, and when God decides to interrupt a cycle, it is decisive. What you could not change through effort, God will change through authority. This is not gradual improvement. This is divine interruption. You may not realize it yet, but your endurance has already rewritten your future. You did not quit when it was hard. You did not turn bitter when it was unfair. You did not abandon God when answers were slow. That endurance has positioned you for trust. And God entrusts greater things to those who can endure delay without losing faith. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with wisdom. You will see situations differently. You will respond differently. You will no longer be driven by impulse or fear. Discernment will sharpen. Discernment is not suspicion, it is clarity. You will know what deserves your energy and what does not. You will know what and to speak, and when silence carries more power. That is maturity. And maturity attracts blessing. Do not underestimate the power of alignment. When your heart aligns with God's will, things begin to fall into place without force. You stop chasing what is not assigned to you. You stop grieving what God never intended to last. You begin to move with purpose instead of pressure. That alignment is happening now, even if you cannot articulate it yet. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you socially. Your name will be mentioned in rooms you are not in. Favor will precede you. Opportunities will find you, not because you advertise yourself, but because God highlighted you. When God decides to elevate, God does not need permission from people. God can turn attention in your direction effortlessly. Some of you have felt invisible, overlooked, forgotten, but invisibility was protection. God hid you until you were ready. Exposure without preparation destroys potential. Now preparation has met timing. Do not shrink when attention comes. Do not apologize for growth. Walk confidently but humbly. God resists arrogance, but God promotes humility. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with peace that does not depend on outcomes. This is important. Peace that waits for everything to be perfect is fragile. But peace rooted in God is stable. Even if everything is not resolved yet, you will sense calm. That calm is not denial, it is assurance. Assurance that God is in control. Let me speak directly to your doubts. Doubt does not disqualify you. Doubt only becomes dangerous when it replaces faith entirely. You questioned, but you did not walk away. You struggled, but you stayed connected. That is enough for God to work with. God is patient with honest hearts. God responds to sincerity more than performance. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with momentum. Things will begin to move after a long period of stillness. Messages will come. Responses will come. Progress will come. Do not rush ahead of God when momentum starts. Stay grounded. Stay prayerful. Speed without guidance leads to mistakes. But momentum with God leads to breakthrough. Remember this, surprises from God are not meant to end with you. They flow through you. What God does for you becomes evidence for others. Your breakthrough becomes someone else's hope. Your testimony becomes someone else's strength. That is why God chose you, not because you were flawless, but because you are willing. As this month approaches its end, stay alert, not anxious, expectant, not desperate, grateful, not entitled. Gratitude keeps your heart open. Entitlement hardens it. When you remain grateful even before the manifestation, you demonstrate trust, and trust accelerates release. Something is already shifting. You may notice it in subtle ways first. A lighter heart, a clearer thought, a renewed sense of anticipation. Do not ignore those signals. They are confirmations. G. OD often prepares the inside before changing the outside. Inner shifts always precede external breakthroughs. Hold your faith steady. Not frantic, not forced, steady faith that rests in God's character, not just God's ability. God is faithful even when outcomes look uncertain. God is consistent even when circumstances fluctuate. That is why you can trust what is coming, even if you do not know the details yet. Before this month ends, you will understand why you had to wait, why you had to endure, and why you could not give up. And when it happens, you will not just celebrate the blessing, you will recognize the hand of God in every step that led you there. There is a divine tension that appears just before God moves, a holy pressure that presses the soul into deeper trust. If you feel stretched, unsettled, or unusually reflective, it is not weakness, it is awareness. God is sharpening your sensitivity so you can recognize what is coming when it arrives. Many miss their moment because they expect noise, but God often arrives in stillness. Pay attention to the quiet confirmations, the inner nudges, the sudden peace that makes no logical sense. These are not random emotions. They are signals that alignment is taking place. God is also teaching you discernment in this season, because not every open door is a God door. And not every delay is denial. Discernment allows you to wait without anxiety and move without fear. You are learning to distinguish urgency from instruction. Urgency pressures, instruction guides. When God instructs, there is clarity even if there is challenge. When God leads, there is direction even if there is uncertainty. Before this month ends, that discernment will protect you from distractions that look appealing but would drain your purpose. There are moments when God intentionally reduces your options so you can recognize God as your source. When alternatives disappear, dependence becomes pure. You stop negotiating with possibilities and start trusting with conviction. That is where power is released. Power does not come from having many options. Power comes from knowing who governs the outcome. God does not need multiple paths. God creates one path and sustains it completely. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with courage. Not loud confidence, but quiet strength. Strength that allows you to say no without guilt and yes without fear. Strength that enables you to stand alone if necessary and remain grounded when surrounded by pressure. This courage will not come from self-assurance. It will come from assurance in God. When you know God is with you, intimidation loses its influence. Some of you have been carrying a burden of responsibility that was never meant to be permanent. You stepped up when others stepped away. You held things together when systems failed. God saw that. God honored that. But now God is about to lift weight off your shoulders. Support will come. Assistance will appear. Solutions will emerge. God does not reward endurance by adding more burden. God rewards endurance by providing relief. There is also a refining happening in your words. God is teaching you when to speak life and when silence carries authority. Not every truth needs to be defended. Not every misunderstanding needs correction. God will fight battles you no longer need to explain. When God takes over, your peace becomes your testimony. Your calm becomes your confidence. Your restraint becomes your strength. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with reconciliation in unexpected ways. This may not always mean reunion, but it will mean resolution. Closure will come where questions lingered. Understanding will replace confusion. You will no longer replay conversations in your mind searching for answers. God will give you peace that settles the matter internally, even if everything externally does not change. And that peace will free emotional energy you did not realize you were losing. God is also reshaping how you define success. What once looked impressive may no longer satisfy you. What once seemed small may now carry great meaning. This is maturity. God elevates vision before God elevates position. When your priorities shift, your path clarifies. You stop chasing recognition and start pursuing alignment. And alignment attracts provision naturally. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with divine timing that feels almost unreal. Conversations will happen at tea. Right moment, decisions will align without force. You will look back and realize how many things had to line up precisely. This is not coincidence, this is orchestration. God works with precision. Even what looked delayed was waiting for the right alignment of hearts, conditions, and readiness. Some of you have been asking God for change, but God has been asking you for trust. Trust is not passive waiting, it is active obedience. It is continuing to act with integrity even when outcomes are uncertain. It is choosing hope over bitterness. It is refusing to let disappointment define your expectations. That kind of trust transforms waiting into worship, and worship invites God's presence into the process. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with renewed discipline. Not harsh restriction, but focused direction. You will feel less scattered, less pulled in multiple directions. Your energy will become intentional. When God brings order, productivity increases without exhaustion. You will accomplish more with less strain because God removes unnecessary distractions. There is also a deep cleansing taking place of motives, desires, and attachments. God is purifying intention so that when blessing comes, it does not corrupt purpose. You are being prepared to receive without losing humility, to grow without becoming distant, to lead without dominating. This inner refinement is a gift, even if it feels uncomfortable. Gold is not purified without heat, but the heat never destroys, it reveals. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with confirmation through action, not just words. You will see movement where there was stagnation, evidence where there was only hope, progress where there was prayer. And when it begins, do not rush to announce it, protect it. What is sacred should not be exposed prematurely. Let growth become stable before it becomes visible. God is also teaching you to release comparison. Your journey does not need to resemble anyone else's to be valid. God custom designed your path to shape your character and fulfill your purpose. Comparison weakens gratitude. Gratitude strengthens faith. When you celebrate what God is doing in others without envy, you position yourself to receive without limitation. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with a sense of belonging, not necessarily to a place, but to a purpose. You will feel rooted, not restless, settled, not stagnant. This belonging will quiet the internal search that made you feel like something was always missing. When purpose becomes clear, restlessness fades. Do not underestimate the power of obedience in small things during this time. Small acts of faith often precede large breakthroughs. A single decision aligned with God can unlock doors that effort could not. Stay attentive, stay responsive. God often tests readiness through simplicity. As the days continue to pass, resist the urge to measure progress by visible results alone. The most important work God does happens beneath the surface. Roots grow before branches show. Stability forms before expansion occurs. Trust what you cannot yet see. God is faithful in the hidden places. Your life is not paused, it is positioned. Your prayers are not delayed, they are developing. Your future is not uncertain, it is unfolding under the careful authority of God. And before this month reaches its final moment, you will recognize that the waiting did not weaken you. It prepared you to receive what only God could give. There is a moment when God begins to separate noise from necessity, and many people feel unsettled during that phase. You may notice a growing disinterest in conversations that once consumed you, or a distancing from environments that once felt familiar. This is not loss, it is focus. God is refining your appetite. When God is about to surprise you, God adjusts what you hunger for so that you do not sabotage what is coming by craving what no longer serves your future. Pay attention to what no longer excites you. It is a sign of transition. God is also recalibrating your patience. Patience is not passive waiting, it is controlled expectation. It is trusting God's pace without forcing outcomes. Some of you try to rush answers, rush relationships, rush solutions, only to feel resistance. That resistance was mercy. God was preventing you from arriving too early to something that required maturity. Before this month ends, you will realize that waiting preserved you, waiting protected you, waiting positioned you. There are divine principles that never fail, even when circumstances fluctuate. What you sow eventually grows. What you nurture strengthens. What you release loses power. God operates through principles not to restrict you, but to sustain you. When God blesses, God ensures that the blessing does not collapse under its own weight. That is why God has been teaching you consistency over intensity. Intensity fades, but consistency builds legacy. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you by restoring your confidence in prayer. Some of you prayed faithfully, but secretly wondered if your words still carried weight. You questioned whether heaven was listening. But prayer does not lose power because of silence. Prayer matures in silence. God was not ignoring you. God was preparing the answer. When the response comes, it will carry depth, not just relief. God is also healing your perception of time. You felt behind, you felt delayed. You compared your progress with others and assumed you missed something. But God does not measure progress the way people do. God measures readiness. You are not late, you are aligned. What you have gained internally could not have been rushed without damaging you. Timing is not about speed, it is about accuracy. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with bold clarity in decision making. You will no longer feel torn between options. Ambiguity will dissolve. When God brings clarity, it does not require constant reassurance. You will feel settled even if the path requires courage. That inner assurance is a gift. When clarity arrives, hesitation loses its authority. There is also a quiet strengthening of your moral courage happening now. God is fortifying your values so that when pressure comes, you do not compromise for convenience. Integrity is expensive, but compromise costs more in the long run. God protects those who protect their integrity. Before this month ends, you may face choices that test your values, but God will provide the strength to choose what aligns with truth rather than what offers immediate comfort. Some of you are being prepared for influence, and influence requires responsibility. God does not elevate characterless strength. God builds character before expanding reach. That is why your growth has been internal, invisible to many. Do not despise this stage. Foundations are never admired, but without them, nothing stands. God is laying something solid within you. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you by closing a door you kept trying to reopen. This closure is not rejection, it is redirection. God knows what lies ahead, and God knows which paths would drain you. Closure may feel uncomfortable at first, but clarity follows obedience. When God closes a door, peace will eventually confirm it was necessary. God is also training your discernment in relationships. You will sense when energy is imbalanced, when loyalty is conditional, when connection is unhealthy. This awareness is not meant to isolate you, but to protect you. God values your emotional health. Before this month ends, you will begin to choose relationships based on alignment rather than attachment. There are moments when God surprises you by answering a prayer differently than you expected. You asked for removal, and God gave you resilience. You asked for escape, and God gave you authority. You asked for change, and God changed you first. This does not mean God ignored you. It means God gave you something greater than what you requested. When perspective changes, problems shrink. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with spiritual steadiness. You will no longer feel pulled by every emotion or shaken by every setback. Your inner world will stabilize. Stability is power. When you are steady, you are not easily manipulated by fear or flattery. God is anchoring you so that storms do not dictate your direction. God is also awakening gratitude in unexpected places. You will find yourself thankful not only for victories, but for lessons. Gratitude will soften your heart and sharpen your faith. When gratitude becomes natural, worry loses its grip. God inhabits gratitude because gratitude acknowledges sovereignty. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with renewed purpose in ordinary routine. What once felt monotonous will feel meaningful again. God does not always change environments. Sometimes God changes perspective. When purpose is present, even routine becomes sacred. You will realize that every step, no matter how small, contributes to something greater. Some of you have been wrestling internally with forgiveness, not because you forgot the pain, but because you feared releasing it would minimize what happened. But forgiveness is not denial, it is freedom. God is inviting you to release what no longer deserves residence in your heart. Before this month ends, forgiveness will feel less like loss and more like relief. God is also refining your expectations of people. You will stop seeking perfection and start valuing sincerity. This will save you disappointment. People are not meant to replace God. When expectations are balanced, relationships become healthier. God is teaching you to love without dependency and trust without idolizing. Before this month ends, God is about to surprise you with creative solutions. Answers will come that you did not anticipate. Ideas will surface that feel inspired. Do not dismiss creativity as coincidence. God is the source of wisdom and innovation. When God releases insight, it often arrives quietly, waiting for obedience to activate it. As the days move forward, remain sensitive but not fearful, expectant but not impatient, hopeful but not demanding. God is not pressured by time, but God honors faith. What is unfolding now carries intention, precision, and purpose. And as each moment passes, you are moving closer to the realization that what God prepared was worth every moment of waiting. There are moments when God speaks softly, and there are moments when God thunders a warning so strong that your spirit trembles before your mind understands. This is one of those moments. God told me to warn you, and I say this with holy urgency burning in my bones. You are about to meet someone sent by God very soon. Someone divinely assigned to your life. Someone who carries answers you have prayed for and doors you could never open by yourself. But if you do not stop doing one dangerous thing, you may miss them completely. Not because God failed, not because the promise was false, but because preparation was ignored. I did not come to entertain you. I came to awaken you. This message is not for everyone, but if your spirit feels stirred, then God is speaking directly to you. There are divine encounters that change everything in one conversation, one introduction, one unexpected meeting. God has always worked through people, through connections, through moments that look ordinary on the surface, but are heavy with destiny. Many people pray for blessings, but few prepare their hearts for divine relationships. You have been asking God for elevation, for favor, for direction, for restoration, for breakthrough, and God heard you. Heaven has already moved. The answer is already in motion, but hear me now with absolute clarity. The person God is sending cannot help you if you remain trapped in the behavior God is warning you to abandon. Divine encounters require divine alignment. Some of you think the miracle will come as lightning from the sky, but often God sends the miracle walking on 2 feet. God sends wisdom through a voice. God sends opportunity through a relationship. God sends healing through a conversation. God sends direction through someone who speaks truth you did not want to hear, but desperately needed. And this is why the enemy fights relationships more than anything else, because the right person at the right time can shift an entire lifetime. But God said, warn them. Warn them, because many are about to sabotage their own miracle by refusing to let go of habits that no longer serve the season they are entering. You cannot enter a new divine chapter while insisting on old destructive patterns. God does not send divine people into chaotic environments. God does not connect purpose with confusion. God does not attach destiny to disobedience. When God sends someone, it is because you are meant to rise, not remain stuck. Let me speak plainly now, because this word demands honesty. Some of you are about to meet someone sent by God, but you keep rehearsing old wounds instead of healing. You keep talking about what hurt you instead of allowing God to restore you. You keep reliving betrayal, disappointment, abandonment, and rejection as if they are part of your identity. God says, stop doing this. Stop bleeding on people who did not cut you. Stop judging new assignments through the lens of old pain. The person God is sending is not coming to harm you. But if you keep projecting yesterday's wounds onto today's blessing, you will push away the very help you prayed for. There are people who miss divine connections, not because they were unworthy, but because they were unready. Readiness is not about perfection. It is about surrender. It is about humility. It is about saying, God, correct me before you connect me. Some of you are so busy protecting yourself that you have built walls so high that even God-sent help cannot reach you. Discernment does not mean suspicion. Wisdom does not mean isolation. God never designed you to walk alone, and God never fulfills major promises in isolation. God says, stop assuming everyone comes to take from you. That mindset was formed in survival, but you are no longer in survival mode. You are entering alignment mode. The season of mere endurance is ending, and the season of divine orchestration is beginning. But if you keep seeing enemies everywhere, you will treat helpers like threats. And when the one sent by God approaches you, your suspicion will silence the conversation that was meant to change your life. Hear this with spiritual seriousness. The person God is sending will not look the way you expect. They may not come with grand announcements or dramatic signs. They may come quietly, humbly, even unexpectedly. They may challenge you. They may correct you. They may confront things in you that you would rather ignore. And if your pride is louder than your obedience, you will dismiss them. God said, warn them to stop letting pride speak before wisdom. Pride is subtle. Pride does not always look arrogant. Sometimes it looks like stubborn independence. Sometimes it sounds like, I can handle it myself. Sometimes it disguises itself as spiritual maturity, when in reality it is fear of vulnerability. But God does not bless pride. God resists it. If you want divine connections, you must cultivate divine humility. The one God sends may carry instruction you did not ask for, but desperately need. Some of you are about to meet someone sent by God, but God says, tell them to stop talking too much. Not everything needs to be explained. Not every detail needs to be exposed. Not every plan needs to be announced before it is established. Oversharing has caused many people to lose divine momentum. There is a time to speak and a time to listen. The person God is sending may be evaluating your spirit more than your words. Silence, when guided by wisdom, is not weakness, it is discernment. God is also warning you to stop entertaining distractions that drain your spirit. You cannot recognize divine appointments if your attention is constantly scattered. Many people miss destiny because they are addicted to noise. God speaks in clarity, not chaos. If your mind is constantly cluttered, your heart constantly restless, and your spirit constantly exhausted, you will overlook the person God sends because you are too distracted to perceive significance. God says, still your spirit, and you will see what I am doing. Some of you are waiting for God to change your circumstances, but God is trying to change your posture. The person God is sending is not coming to rescue you from responsibility. They are coming to partner with obedience. They will not enable dysfunction. They will not affirm complacency. They will call you higher. And if you are committed to comfort more than calling, you will resist them. Let me speak this carefully but firmly. Stop holding on to relationships God already told you to release. Old connections that no longer align with your future will contaminate your discernment. God does not mix purpose with poison. If you insist on keeping people in your life who pull you backward, you will not recognize the one who is meant to pull you forward. This is not cruelty, this is clarity. Every season requires separation before elevation. God is not trying to take from you. God is trying to protect what He's about to give you. Some people cannot go where God is taking you because they are assigned to who you used to be, not who you are becoming. And if you do not let go, you will be torn between loyalty to the past and obedience to the future. The person God is sending will confirm what God has already been whispering to you. They will not replace God's voice, they will echo it. That is how you will know. But if you have silenced God's voice through disobedience, you will not recognize confirmation when it arrives. Obedience sharpens discernment. Resistance dulls it. Some of you need to stop delaying obedience. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. God has already instructed you to change certain habits, adjust certain attitudes, remove certain influences. And you said later, but destiny does not wait for convenience. The person God is sending is aligned with your obedience, not your excuses. There are those listening to this who feel an urgency rising in their spirit. That is not fear, that is alignment. God is accelerating things. God is moving faster than you realize. And that is why this warning matters so much. You are closer than you think. The meeting is nearer than you expect. But preparation determines manifestation. God says, tell them to stop doubting themselves. Insecurity repels divine connections, not because insecurity makes you unworthy, but because it makes you unreachable. When you do not believe God can work through you, you will mistrust those God sends to walk with you. Confidence rooted in God is not arrogance. It is agreement with what God says about you. Some of you will meet this person in a place you did not plan to be. Others will meet them during a difficult season. Do not assume divine meetings only happen in joyful moments. Sometimes God sends help in the middle of pressure. Sometimes God sends answers while you are tired. Sometimes God sends clarity while you are confused. Stay open, stay sensitive, stay obedient. God told me to warn you because this is a defining moment. This is not just another message. This is a spiritual intersection. What you choose to stop doing now will determine what you are able to receive next. God is faithful. God keeps promises. God sends help. But God also honors readiness. And now hear this deeply. The person God is sending is not coming to compete with you. They are coming to complement you. They are not coming to control you. They are coming to align with you. They are not coming to replace God. They are coming as an instrument God can use. If you idolize them, you will misunderstand them. If you dismiss them, you will miss them. Balance is discernment. God is calling you to clean your spiritual vision. Remove all ends. Release bitterness. Let go of comparison. Stop measuring your journey against others. Comparison blinds discernment. The person God sends may not match your expectations, but they will match your assignment. I say this with deep conviction. Do not rush this moment and do not resist it. Let God prepare you internally for what He is arranging externally. The warning is not meant to scare you. It is meant to align you. God corrects those He is about to elevate. God instructs those He is about to connect. Your life is not random. Your encounters are not accidental. Your timing is not delayed. You are standing at the edge of a divine meeting that will unlock clarity, direction, and momentum. But obedience is the key that opens the door. God told me to warn you because God loves you too much to let you miss this. Let me take you deeper now, because surface understanding will not sustain you in the season you are entering. God is not only sending a person, God is testing your discernment. Many people ask God for signs, but God often answers through sensitivity. The ability to recognize what God is doing in human form is a spiritual skill, not emotional excitement. The person God is sending will carry peace, not confusion. Even if they challenge you, your spirit will feel anchored, not agitated. Learn the difference. Anxiety screams, but alignment settles. God's presence does not rush you, it steadies you. God says some of you must stop confusing intensity with confirmation. Just because something feels strong does not mean it is sent by God. Sometimes intensity is just unhealed emotion looking for expression. The person God sends will not manipulate your emotions. They will awaken your purpose. They will not drain you. They will sharpen you. They will not feed your ego. They will strengthen your spirit. That is how you will know. God does not attach destiny to emotional chaos. There are those listening who have become addicted to familiarity. You choose what feels known over what is right. You return to cycles because they are predictable, even when they are destructive. God says, stop doing this. Familiarity is not faith. Comfort is not calling. The person God is sending may disrupt your routine, challenge your preferences, and stretch your capacity. Do not reject them simply because they require growth. God never sends help that leaves you unchanged. Let me speak about timing, because timing is sacred. The person God sends arrives when obedience and opportunity meet. If you are late in obedience, you will feel late in destiny. But when you align, everything suddenly accelerates. God is not slow. God is precise. What feels delayed is often God protecting you from premature connection. Some connections destroy instead of develop when timing is ignored. God also says to warn you to stop underestimating the value of obedience in small things. You want big breakthroughs, but you resist small instructions. You want divine connections, but you ignore daily discipline. God does not entrust major assignments to careless hands. Faithfulness is the language God understands. The person God is sending will recognize discipline, integrity, and consistency. They will not be impressed by words. They will be drawn to character. Some of you are about to meet someone sent by God, but God says, tell them to stop rehearsing failure. Your past mistakes are not your future identity. Shame is not humility, it is misplaced focus. God forgives fully and restores completely. If God has released you, stop chaining yourself to what no longer has authority over you. The person God sends will see potential where you see regret. Do not argue with them by clinging to shame God already removed. God is also addressing fear right now. Fear of being seen, fear of being known, fear of being disappointed again, fear of opening your heart. But hear this clearly, fear closes doors that faith was meant to open. The person God sends cannot reach you if fear builds barriers. Courage does not mean absence of fear. It means obedience despite fear. God honors courage. Some of you have become overly selective, not because of wisdom, but because of past disappointment. You call it standards, but God calls it walls. Discernment filters, walls isolate. The person God sends may not meet every preference, but they will meet divine purpose. God does not consult your comfort zone when fulfilling your calling. Let me speak about humility again, but from a deeper place. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it is thinking of yourself less. When God sends someone, humility allows you to receive without competition. Insecure people compete, secure people collaborate. The person God sends is not your rival. God does not divide purpose, God multiplies it through unity. Some of you must stop assuming you are always right. Teachability is spiritual maturity. God cannot teach the one who already knows everything. The person God sends may carry wisdom that confronts your assumptions. If correction offends you, pride is still active. Correction from God is protection, not punishment. God is also warning against impatience. Impatience forces connections that God never authorized. You rush because you are tired of waiting, but waiting is where strength is refined. The person God sends arrives at the appointed time, not the desperate time. Trusting God's timing is an act of worship. Let me say this strongly. Do not idolize the person God sends. They are a vessel, not the source. God alone is the source. When you elevate people above God, you burden them with expectations they were never meant to carry. The person God sends is meant to walk with you, not replace your dependence on God. Balance keeps relationships healthy and divine assignments clear. Some of you need to stop speaking negatively about yourself. Words shape atmosphere. If you constantly declare lack, failure, and unworthiness, you create resistance to divine alignment. Speak in agreement with what God has spoken. Life follows language. The person God sends will listen to how you speak about yourself when you think no one is watching. God is also saying to stop ignoring intuition sharpened by prayer. Not every warning comes with noise. Sometimes God withdraws peace quietly. Pay attention to that. When peace leaves, pause. When clarity fades, wait. The person God sends will not require you to silence your conscience or override your inner conviction. There are those who are about to meet someone sent by God in a season of transition. Do not despise transition. Transition is where identity is refined. God often sends people during transitions to guide, confirm, or support what God is restructuring. Embrace the process. Resistance delays growth. Let me speak to those who feel unworthy of divine help. That feeling is not from God. God does not send help because you earned it. God sends help because God is good. Grace is unearned favor. Do not disqualify yourself from what God has already approved. Some of you need to stop comparing your journey to others. Comparison breeds insecurity and distorts discernment. God's assignments are custom made. The person God sends to you is uniquely aligned to your path, not someone else's. Trust God's design. God says this is also a season to clean your inner environment, remove resentment, release grudges, forgive not because people deserve it, but because freedom demands it. Unforgiveness poisons discernment. The person God sends cannot function in a heart crowded with bitterness. Hear this. The person God sends may not stay forever. Some are seasonal, some are transitional, some are foundational. Do not cling beyond assignment. Honor what they bring, receive what God intends, and release when the season shifts. Possession is not purpose, stewardship is. God is teaching you to recognize divine alignment by fruit, not flattery. The person God sends will not just speak well, they will live well. Watch consistency, watch integrity, watch how they treat those who cannot benefit them. God's fingerprints are always visible in character. Some of you must stop running from stillness. Silence makes you uncomfortable because it exposes what noise hides. But God speaks most clearly when distractions are removed. The person God sends will resonate with the version of you shaped in prayer, not performance. Let me speak this with weight. Destiny is relational. God could do everything alone, but God chooses partnership to develop character. Isolation weakens discernment. Community strengthens purpose. The person God sends is part of God's design to refine you, not replace God. God is saying, prepare your heart, not just your expectations. Expectations without preparation lead to disappointment. Preparation without expectation leads to readiness. Be ready, not demanding. Some of you will meet this person through service, others through obedience, others through unexpected redirect. Do not limit God's methods. God's creativity exceeds your imagination. And now, listen closely. The warning God gave me to deliver is rooted in love, not fear. God corrects before connecting. God aligns before assigning. God prepares before promoting. This message is proof that God is involved in your journey. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not late. You are being positioned. What you stop doing now will determine how well you receive what God is sending next. God is already moving. And if you stay obedient, humble, discerning, and aligned, you will recognize the one God sends, not by excitement alone, but by the quiet confirmation in your spirit that says, this is from God. Now let me take you even deeper, because God is not only preparing you to recognize who is coming, God is also reshaping who you are becoming. Divine meetings do not happen in shallow places. They happen where character has been refined, where obedience has been tested, where surrender has been chosen over control. God is not casual with connections. When God sends a person, it is because that person fits into a precise moment in your spiritual architecture. Nothing is random. Nothing is wasted. God is saying that some of you must stop trying to control outcomes before they arrive. Control is a subtle form of fear. You plan every detail, rehearse every scenario, and imagine every possible failure, thinking it will protect you. But control suffocates trust. God cannot move freely in a heart that insists on managing everything. The person God sends will require trust, not dominance. If you are obsessed with control, you will resist divine flow and misinterpret God's help as a threat to your autonomy. Hear this clearly. God is not sending someone to replace your effort. God is sending someone to multiply it. But multiplication only happens when seeds are released. If you hold everything too tightly, nothing grows. Faith releases, fear hoards. The person God sends will bring expansion, but only if you allow God to loosen your grip on outcomes. Some of you are about to encounter someone sent by God, but God says, warn them to stop disqualifying themselves. You look at your weaknesses, your history, your unfinished areas, and you conclude that you are not ready. But readiness is not the absence of flaws. It is the presence of surrender. God does not wait for perfection to send purpose. God waits for willingness. If you keep telling yourself you are not enough, you will struggle to receive what God has already decided you are ready for. God is also exposing false urgency. Not every rush is from God. Some urgency is birthed from comparison, insecurity, or impatience. Divine urgency carries peace even when it demands action. If you feel pressured, frantic, or anxious, pause. The person God sends will not force themselves into your life through panic. God's timing carries clarity, not confusion. Let me speak to those who have been wounded by past connections. God sees that pain. God does not minimize it. But God says, do not let yesterday's disappointment dictate tomorrow's discernment. Healing is not pretending nothing happened. Healing is refusing to let pain become your guide. When pain leads, wisdom follows at a distance. The person God sends cannot heal you if you insist on using them as a shield instead of allowing God to be your refuge. God is also saying to stop spiritualizing avoidance. Isolation is not always wisdom. Withdrawal is not always discernment. Sometimes it is fear wearing a spiritual mask. God created you to grow through interaction, refinement, and relationship. The person God sends is part of that growth process. Avoidance delays development. Some of you are too focused on what you think you need instead of what God knows you require. God's wisdom surpasses your preferences. You ask for familiarity, God sends transformation. You ask for comfort, God sends challenge. You ask for affirmation, God sends instruction. Trust God's perspective. The person God sends will address what you need most, not what you want immediately. Let me say this with authority. Divine connections often expose what still needs to change. Do not panic when discomfort surfaces. Exposure is not rejection. It is invitation to growth. God does not reveal weaknesses to shame you. God reveals them to strengthen you. The person God sends may highlight areas you avoided, but that illumination is part of elevation. God is also instructing you to guard your reactions. Reactions reveal maturity. Anyone can respond when affirmed. Maturity is revealed when corrected. The person God sends may test your reactions before trusting your capacity. God watches how you respond under pressure because destiny requires stability. Some of you are too quick to label people as distractions when they do not immediately fit your expectations. But God says, wait and watch the fruit. Discernment requires patience. Impulsiveness confuses intuition. The person God sends may unfold in stages. Do not rush conclusions. Wisdom observes before deciding. God is also warning against emotional dependency. The person God sends is not meant to be your source of validation, identity, or peace. God alone holds that role. Healthy divine relationships are built on shared purpose, not emotional survival. When you expect people to fill what only God can fill, you distort the assignment. Let me speak about alignment again, but from a higher dimension. Alignment is agreement with God's order. When you align with God internally, external alignment follows naturally. The person God sends will resonate with your obedience, not your excuses. If your life is out of order, you will struggle to maintain divine connections. God is saying that some of you must stop ignoring the discipline of prayerful listening. You speak to God, but you do not wait for response. Listening refines discernment. The more you listen, the clearer God's confirmations become. The person God sends will echo what God has already been saying in the quiet. Some of you are afraid of responsibility that comes with divine connection. You want the benefit without the burden, but every blessing carries stewardship. The person God sends may increase your responsibility, not reduce it. Growth demands accountability. God is also reminding you that obedience sometimes requires letting go of emotional attachments that feel justified. Just because something feels good does not mean it is God ordained. Peace is not pleasure. Truth is not convenience. The person God sends will align with truth even when it requires sacrifice. Let me speak to those who have been waiting a long time. Waiting does not mean denial. Waiting means preparation. God often takes longer to prepare the vessel than to arrange the meeting. Your waiting has not been wasted. It has been shaping discernment, patience, and strength. God is saying that some of you must stop romanticizing struggle. Struggle was a season, not an identity. Survival mode is ending. Alignment mode is beginning. The person God sends is connected to your next level, not your past battles. Some of you will recognize this person by the way your spirit settles, even if your mind is still processing. God's confirmations are often quiet but firm. Learn to trust that inner witness shaped by prayer and obedience. God is not sending confusion. God is not sending chaos. God is not sending temptation disguised as opportunity. God sends clarity. God sends peace. God sends growth. And hear this with deep seriousness. Missing this moment will not mean God has abandoned you, but it may mean unnecessary delay. God's mercy restores, but wisdom prevents loss. This warning is mercy speaking in advance. God is preparing you for a meeting that carries weight beyond what you see now. What looks like a simple connection may unlock direction, provision, healing, or clarity you have sought for years. Let me press further, because God is not finished shaping your understanding. Divine encounters are not only about who arrives, they are about who you become before and after the meeting. God is more invested in transformation than information. If you only learn who is coming but do not change how you live, you will mishandle the gift. God does not waste assignments on unchanged vessels. Preparation is proof of honor. God is saying that some of you must stop speaking carelessly. Words are seeds, and seeds grow. You cannot speak doubt all week and expect faith to show up at the door. You cannot declare defeat and then wonder why strength feels distant. The person God sends will hear the language of your heart through the language of your mouth. Speak with intention. Speak with reverence. Speak in agreement with God's truth, even when circumstances argue otherwise. There are those listening who must stop neglecting gratitude. Gratitude sharpens spiritual vision. When you honor what God has already done, you become sensitive to what God is about to do. Ungratefulness dulls discernment and breeds entitlement. The person God sends may be tested in whether you recognize value or only chase advantage. God watches how you honor small blessings before releasing greater ones. God is also instructing you to stop living without boundaries. Boundaries are not rejection, they are protection. A life with no boundaries becomes vulnerable to confusion. The person God sends will respect boundaries shaped by wisdom and obedience. If you allow everyone unlimited access to you, you will struggle to identify who is truly assigned by God. Order attracts order. Some of you need to stop resisting discipline. Discipline is not punishment, it is alignment. God disciplines those God intends to entrust. A life without discipline cannot sustain divine favor. The person God sends will resonate with discipline, consistency, and commitment. Chaos repels divine order. God is also calling you to examine motives. Why do you want this connection? Is it for validation, escape, recognition, or purpose? Motives determine how blessings are used. God sends people to advance purpose, not to soothe insecurity. Purify your motives, and your discernment will sharpen. Let me speak about generosity, because generosity reveals trust. When you trust God, you release freely. Stinginess often hides fear. God is a generous God, and divine connections flow through generous spirits. The person God sends will notice how you give, your time, your attention, your respect, not just your resources. Some of you must stop ignoring inner conviction. Conviction is God's mercy guiding you away from harm. When conviction speaks and you silence it, discernment weakens. The person God sends will not require you to betray your conscience. God never contradicts God's own instruction. God is also reminding you to stop rehearsing imaginary scenarios. Overthinking drains spiritual sensitivity. You analyze every possibility until peace is replaced by pressure. Trust God's guidance moment by moment. The person God sends does not need your anxiety to guide the process. God is capable. Let me speak to those who are tired. Weariness can distort perception. When you are exhausted, you misread intentions and misjudge opportunities. God is calling you to rest, not quit, but rest. Rest restores clarity. The person God sends will arrive when you are spiritually awake, not emotionally depleted. God is saying that some of you must stop seeking constant confirmation from people. If you need approval to obey God, you will struggle with divine direction. Confidence rooted in God allows you to move without applause. The person God sends will support obedience, not replace God's voice. Some of you are about to meet someone sent by God, but God says, tell them to stop living divided. A divided heart cannot sustain divine alignment. Decide who you serve. Decide what matters. Indecision weakens authority. The person God sends will align with clarity, not confusion. God is also warning against envy. Envy blinds discernment and corrupts relationships. Celebrate often. Rest sincerely. What God has done for others does not threaten what God has planned for you. The person God sends will be attracted to humility, not comparison. Let me speak about patience again, but from endurance. Patience is strength under control. It is not passivity, it is trust in God's timing. The person God sends will not be rushed by desperation. Trust God enough to wait without forcing outcomes. God is saying that some of you must stop hiding behind busyness. Busyness is not productivity. Constant motion can be avoidance in disguise. Stillness allows God to refine your heart. The person God sends will recognize depth, not just activity. Some of you will recognize the person God sends because they will encourage obedience, not compromise. They will not pull you away from prayer, integrity, or discipline. They will not diminish your reverence for God. Alignment increases devotion, distraction decreases it. God is also saying to stop carrying offense like a shield. Offense blocks growth. Correction is not rejection. Feedback is not betrayal. The person God sends may speak truth that stretches you. Receive it with humility. Growth often begins where comfort ends. Let me speak to those who feel unprepared financially, emotionally, or spiritually. God does not send according to your measurements. God sends according to purpose. Trust God to supply what obedience requires. Preparation does not mean you have everything. It means you trust God for what you lack. God is also instructing you to guard confidentiality. Not everyone needs access to what God is developing in you. Sacred things require discretion. The person God sends will respect confidentiality and wisdom. Exposure before time invites interference. Some of you must stop clinging to identity formed by hardship. Hardship shaped you, but it does not define you. God is transitioning you from survival to stewardship. The person God sends will relate to your future, not your trauma. God is saying this meeting will require courage. Courage to listen, courage to change, courage to trust, courage to obey. Fear will argue loudly, but faith must answer firmly. You are being trained to recognize divine movement without spectacle. God often moves quietly, precisely, intentionally. The person God sends may arrive without announcement, but their impact will unfold with purpose. Stay attentive, stay aligned, stay obedient. God is arranging what your obedience has been preparing for, and what you do now is shaping how you will receive what God sends next. My dear friends, if you are hearing these words right now, it is because God has positioned you at a divine intersection. Something is shifting around you. Something unseen but powerful is moving on your behalf. And whether you feel ready or not, God is creating opportunities for you that no human hand could design and no opposition can stop. You may have felt overlooked, delayed, or even forgotten, but hear this with absolute clarity: God has never lost sight of you for a single moment. What you thought were closed doors were not rejection, they were protection. What you thought were delays were not denials, they were divine preparation. God is not reacting to your situation. God authored this season long before you entered it. There are moments in life when everything feels still on the surface, yet beneath that stillness, God is rearranging circumstances, aligning people, and opening paths that did not exist before. Many believe opportunities come from connections, education, or resources alone. But I tell you with conviction that the greatest opportunities are born from obedience and trust in God. When God decides to lift you, no system can suppress you. When God decides to favor you, no limitation can restrict you. You may feel unqualified, underprepared, or uncertain, but God does not create opportunities based on your strength. God creates opportunities based on divine purpose. And when purpose speaks, excuses lose their power. Some of you have been praying for change while holding tightly to fear. You have asked God to open doors, yet hesitated to walk toward them because the unfamiliar feels risky. But understand this truth: God does not open doors to test your comfort. God opens doors to fulfill destiny. Opportunities from God will often stretch you before they reward you. They will demand faith before they deliver results. They will require courage before they reveal clarity. If you are waiting to feel ready, you may wait forever, because God calls you forward not when you feel prepared, but when you are willing to trust. Readiness grows as you move, not before you move. There are opportunities approaching you that will not announce themselves loudly. They may arrive quietly, disguised as responsibility, disguised as inconvenience, disguised as challenge. Many miss divine opportunities because they are expecting dramatic signs, while God is speaking through subtle instructions. Do not despise small beginnings. God often uses what seems insignificant to release what is extraordinary. What looks small to you may be the seed of a future that will astonish you. God specializes in taking the ordinary and revealing the extraordinary through it. You must understand that opportunities from God are not always comfortable, but they are always purposeful. Comfort seeks safety, but purpose seeks impact. God is not shaping you for ease. God is shaping you for influence. Every season of stretching you endured was not meant to break you. It was meant to expand your capacity. You survived moments you thought would destroy you because God was strengthening your spiritual foundation. Now that foundation is ready to carry more. The pressure you endured prepared you for the opportunity you are about to receive. Some of you have been asking why the road was so lonely, why support disappeared, why familiar voices grew silent. It was because God was removing distractions that would have diluted your focus. God knows that certain opportunities require solitude before manifestation. Not everyone who claps for you is meant to walk with you. Not everyone who starts with you is meant to arrive with you. God isolates before elevating. God separates before promoting. What felt like loss was actually alignment. Opportunities created by God are not limited by economy, location, or background. They are not bound by age or history. God is not restricted by what failed before. God does not consult your past to determine your future. When God opens a door, it is not because you earned it, it is because it aligns with divine intention. This is why you must stop disqualifying yourself with negative self-talk. Stop saying, "I am not enough," when God has already declared you capable. Stop measuring your worth by past mistakes when God measures you by future potential. There is a divine urgency in this season. God is not asking you to rush, but God is asking you to move. Opportunities are forming in response to your obedience. Each step of faith you take activates the next instruction. You do not need to see the entire path. You only need to trust the next step. Faith is not knowing where the road leads. Faith is knowing who guides your steps. And God never guides without provision. You may be facing resistance right now, and you may wonder why opposition increased just as you decided to trust God more deeply. Understand this: resistance often confirms direction. When opposition rises, it is often because an opportunity of impact is near. Do not interpret resistance as failure. Interpret it as confirmation that you are moving towards something that matters. God allows pressure not to stop you, but to refine you. The fire does not destroy what God has designed. It reveals it. Opportunities from God require spiritual awareness. You must learn to recognize them when they appear. They may not look like answers at first. They may demand patience, humility, or sacrifice, but God never wastes obedience. Every act of faith you perform today becomes a doorway tomorrow. Even when it feels unseen, God records every faithful step. Nothing you do in alignment with God is ever forgotten. There are people God is positioning to cross your path, conversations. God is preparing to unlock doors, ideas God is planting that will mature at the appointed time. Do not underestimate divine timing. What arrives too early can overwhelm you. What arrives too late can discourage you. God's timing is precise. Trust it even when it challenges your patience. Waiting does not mean inactivity. It means preparation. While you wait, God works. You must guard your mindset in this season. Opportunities flourish in environments of faith, not fear. Fear narrows vision. Faith expands it. Fear asks, what if it fails? Faith declares, what if God succeeds? Speak life over your future. Speak alignment over your efforts. Your words create atmosphere, and atmosphere influences outcomes. When you align your language with trusting God, you align your life with possibility. Some of you are standing at the edge of change, and hesitation is whispering doubts. But hear this truth: God does not create opportunities to confuse you. God creates opportunities to transform you. The discomfort you feel is not a warning, it is an invitation to grow. Growth always demands release. You cannot step into new opportunities while clinging to old limitations. Let go of what no longer serves your purpose. Trust God enough to release control. God is not only opening doors for you personally, God is positioning you to become a door for others. The opportunities coming to you are not solely for your benefit. They are meant to create impact beyond you. God blesses individuals to influence communities. What you receive will overflow into the lives around you if you remain aligned with divine intention. This is why integrity matters. This is why humility matters. Opportunity without character can destroy, but opportunity with character transforms. You may have experienced disappointment in the past, and it may have taught you to expect less. But God is not limited by your expectations. God exceeds them. Do not shrink your prayers to match your disappointments. Expand your faith to match God's ability. Opportunities often arrive disguised as responsibility. When God gives you more, it is because God trusts you with more. Honor that trust. There are seasons when God removes certainty so that trust can grow. If everything were predictable, faith would not be required. God is inviting you into deeper reliance, not deeper anxiety. When opportunities emerge that require courage, remember that courage is not the absence of fear. It is obedience despite fear. God does not require perfection. God requires surrender. Some opportunities will require you to leave familiar ground. Familiarity can be comforting, but it can also become limiting. God may call you away from what feels safe to position you where growth is possible. Do not confuse comfort with calling. Calling often leads you into unfamiliar territory where only trust sustains you. And in those places, God reveals strength you did not know you possessed. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not disqualified. You are exactly where God can reach you. The timing of your life is not determined by comparison to others. God works with individuals, not crowds. What God is building in you cannot be rushed. Each season has prepared you for the next. Every closed door redirected you toward the right one. Opportunities created by God are resilient. They withstand opposition, criticism, and delay. Even if a door seems to close temporarily, what God has ordained will not be permanently denied. Trust that what is meant for you will reach you at the appointed time. Your responsibility, thank you, is not to force outcomes, but to remain faithful in preparation. Stay attentive, stay humble, stay courageous. Opportunities often speak softly before they roar. Pay attention to the inner promptings, the recurring ideas, the persistent nudges. God communicates through alignment, not confusion. When peace accompanies possibility, trust that God is guiding you. You are entering a season where preparation meets opportunity. The strength you built in silence will support you in visibility. The lessons you learned in obscurity will guide you in influence. God is creating opportunities for you, not because the journey was easy, but because you remained faithful when it was difficult. And that faith has positioned you for what comes next. Do not allow doubt to talk you out of what God is calling you into. Doubt is loud, but truth is stronger. Replace hesitation with obedience. Replace fear with trust. The opportunity ahead is not beyond you, it is aligned with you. God would not open a door you were not meant to walk through. Remain steady, remain expectant, remain aligned. What God is creating for you is unfolding even now, shaping your future in ways you cannot yet fully see. But soon you will recognize that every step, every delay, every lesson was guiding you toward this moment where trust meets possibility and faith becomes action, and the path ahead begins to reveal itself through obedience, perseverance, and unwavering reliance on God alone. There is a deeper layer to what God is doing that many fail to recognize. God does not merely place opportunities in front of you. God reshapes your inner world so that you can carry what is coming without collapsing under its weight. Before God enlarges your influence, God strengthens your inner life. Before God expands your reach, God deepens your roots. This is why some answers felt slow, because if they had arrived earlier, they would have crushed you instead of crowned you. God is never careless with timing. God values sustainability over speed. You must understand that divine opportunity is not random. It is intentional. God does not scatter blessings, God assigns them. Every opportunity God creates is connected to a responsibility. This is why discernment is critical in this season. Not every open door is a divine door, but every divine door will align with peace, purpose, and obedience. God will never lead you into compromise to fulfill promise. If something requires you to abandon integrity, it is not from God, no matter how attractive it looks. Some of you have been battling discouragement because you have labored faithfully and seen little visible reward. But hear this truth deeply. God rewards faithfulness before fruitfulness. What you are building now may not yet be visible, but it is stable. God is more interested in what lasts than what impresses. Many chase quick results and lose longevity. God is building something in your life that will endure pressure, criticism, and time. Opportunity. Ties from God often come with stretching assignments that reveal what is still undeveloped within you. God exposes weakness not to shame you, but to heal and strengthen you. When God highlights areas that need growth, it is not rejection, it is investment. God corrects what God intends to elevate. Do not resist correction in this season. Correction sharpens discernment and protects destiny. There are moments when God intentionally allows you to feel inadequate so that reliance can shift from self to divine strength. Confidence rooted in self will eventually fail, but confidence rooted in God will remain steady even when circumstances shake. When opportunities arrive that exceed your natural ability, that is not a signal to retreat, it is a signal to trust. God specializes in filling gaps you cannot fill yourself. Pay attention to your environment. God often uses surroundings to signal transition. Restlessness can be holy when it points you toward growth. If you feel dissatisfied with stagnation, it may be because God is stirring you to move. Growth rarely begins with comfort. It begins with awareness that remaining the same is no longer acceptable. God disrupts complacency to awaken purpose. Opportunities are often connected to obedience in unseen places. How you handle what seems insignificant determines what God entrusts you with later. Small acts of faith build spiritual authority. Do not underestimate private obedience. God sees what others ignore, and what God sees, God rewards in due time. Some of you are being prepared for opportunities that will require leadership. Leadership begins with responsibility long before recognition. God trains leaders in humility, patience, and consistency. If you feel overlooked, understand that God may be shielding you from premature exposure. Visibility without preparation creates vulnerability. God covers before God reveals. There is also a call in this season to release bitterness from past disappointments. Unforgiveness blocks perception. It clouds judgment and restricts growth. Opportunities require clarity of heart. You cannot carry new favor while clinging to old resentment. Release what wounded you. Trust that God is just and that no injustice escapes divine awareness. God restores what was taken, often informs greater than what was lost. When God creates opportunities, God also provides wisdom to navigate them. Wisdom is not merely knowledge, it is alignment with divine guidance. Seek clarity, not haste. Impatience can rush you into decisions that compromise peace. God's opportunities do not require anxiety to maintain. What comes from God will be sustained by God. You may notice that as opportunities draw closer, distractions increase. This is not accidental. Distraction is often the enemy's strategy to dilute focus. Guard your attention. What you consistently focus on will shape your outcomes. Keep your vision aligned with purpose. Opportunities require disciplined focus to mature into fulfillment. God is also refining your voice in this season. How you speak reflects what you believe. Align your language with trust. Speak with expectation, not desperation. Words spoken in faith prepare the ground for manifestation. Silence negative declarations. You are not defined by what went wrong, but by what God is doing now. There will be moments when obedience requires courage to stand alone. Not everyone will understand your decisions. Approval is not confirmation. Divine direction may conflict with popular opinion. Stand firm. God's validation outweighs human applause. Those who walk by faith must sometimes walk without affirmation. Opportunities from God often unfold progressively. Do not demand the full picture before taking the first step. Faith grows through action. Each obedient move clarifies the next. God reveals direction to those who move, not those who wait for certainty. You are also being invited to deepen gratitude. Gratitude shifts perspective and attracts increase. When you honor what God has already done, you position yourself to receive what is next. Gratitude does not deny challenges. It acknowledges provision within them. Some opportunities will require you to redefine success. Success in God's design is not merely accumulation, it is alignment. It is living in harmony with purpose. Do not measure progress solely by external markers. Internal growth often precedes visible change. Remain teachable. Pride resists instruction, but humility attracts wisdom. God elevates those who remain open to learning. Even in seasons of favor, remain grounded. Opportunity without humility can distort purpose. There is a strengthening of endurance happening within you. God is preparing you not only to receive opportunity, but to sustain it. Many can start well, few finish well. God values completion. The endurance you are developing now will preserve what you receive later. As doors open, remember that dependence on God must increase, not decrease. Blessing should deepen reliance, not replace it. Stay connected, stay prayerful, stay sensitive. Opportunity flourishes where humility remains. You are being shaped into someone who can steward increase wisely. Stewardship is the bridge between opportunity and fulfillment. God entrusts more to those who manage faithfully what they already have. Honor your current responsibilities. They are training ground for what is coming. The season ahead will require discernment between urgency and impatience. Move with intention, not impulse. God's guidance brings clarity, not confusion. When clarity comes, act decisively. Delay can cause misalignment. Trust that even now God is working beyond what you can see. Conversations are happening. Paths are aligning. Circumstances are shifting. What feels slow in the natural is active in the unseen. Remain steady. Faith is strengthened when vision is limited. Your story is not stalled, it is unfolding. Opportunities are not absent, they are forming. God, not distant. God is present. Every moment of trust is shaping a future that aligns with divine intention. Stay anchored, stay obedient, stay open. The opportunities God is creating will require courage to accept, wisdom to manage, and faith to sustain. And as you walk forward with trust, you will recognize that nothing was wasted, nothing was random, and everything was preparing you to step into what God has been forming with precision, purpose, and unwavering care. There is also a refining of vision taking place within you. God sharpens vision before releasing opportunity, because vision determines direction. Without clear vision, opportunity becomes distraction. God is teaching you to see beyond immediate outcomes and to recognize long-term purpose. What you perceive now shapes how you respond when opportunity arrives. Ask not only for open doors, but for clear sight. God does not want you to stumble into destiny blindly. God wants you to walk with understanding. Many assume opportunity always arrives as increase, but sometimes opportunity arrives as instruction. God may speak through correction, redirection, or even interruption. Interruptions are not setbacks when God is involved. They are recalibrations. God interrupts routines to realign purpose. If your plans were disrupted, do not panic. It may be because God is protecting you from pursuing something good that would have distracted you from something greater. There is a sacred tension between patience and expectant. Ion that God is teaching you to hold. Expectation without patience breeds frustration. Patience without expectation breeds stagnation. God calls you to carry both, to wait actively, not passively. Active waiting means preparing, learning, refining, and staying responsive. God honors preparation long before manifestation. Opportunities from God often demand emotional maturity. Emotional instability can sabotage divine openings. This is why God allows seasons where emotions are tested. God is teaching you to respond rather than react, to remain anchored rather than shaken. When opportunity places you under pressure, emotional discipline preserves clarity. God is building steadiness within you so that external circumstances do not dictate internal peace. Some opportunities will require you to forgive people who never apologize, not because they deserve release, but because you deserve freedom. Carrying resentment limits capacity. God expands capacity by releasing burdens you were never meant to carry. Forgiveness clears space for growth. When your heart is free, your vision becomes clear. God is also strengthening your discernment regarding timing. Knowing when to act is as important as knowing where to act. Acting too early can exhaust resources. Acting too late can miss alignment. God trains you to sense when to move and when to wait. This sensitivity develops through stillness and attention. Do not rush moments of clarity. Let them mature. You may notice a shift in the key. ND of challenges you face. Smaller struggles give way to larger responsibilities. This is not coincidence. It is promotion disguised as pressure. God does not remove challenge with growth. God changes the nature of challenge. What once overwhelmed you now strengthens you. This is evidence of expansion. Opportunities also test loyalty to values, to truth, to obedience. God may present options that appear beneficial but compromise alignment. This is where conviction matters. True opportunity will never require you to abandon principles. What God provides will align with integrity. If something demands silence when truth is required or compromise when faith is needed, it is not aligned with divine purpose. There is also a purification of motives happening. God examines why you want what you want. Motive determines stewardship. Opportunity amplifies motive, it does not change it. God refines desire so that when increase comes, it produces impact, not arrogance. Pure motives attract lasting favor. God may also be repositioning your identity. You are not who circumstances labeled you as. You are not defined by survival mode. God is shifting you from surviving to building, from reacting to leading, from waiting to initiating. Identity shift precedes opportunity shift. Begin to see yourself as someone entrusted with responsibility, not merely someone hoping for relief. Some of you will notice that God is asking for deeper obedience, not louder declarations. Obedience demonstrate trust more than words ever could. Quiet obedience in unseen moments prepares you for visible responsibility. God values consistency more than intensity. Remain faithful even when recognition is absent. There is a call to simplify in this season. Complexity drains focus. God often reduces before God increases. Simplification clarifies direction. Remove what drains energy without producing growth. Focus sharpens opportunity. When attention is divided, alignment weakens. Opportunities may also require collaboration. God uses relationships strategically. Learn to discern partnerships. Not every connection is assignment. God aligns you with those who complement purpose, not compete with it. Healthy collaboration multiplies impact. Guard unity where God establishes it. You may feel a sense of urgency rising, not anxiety, but readiness. This is alignment, not pressure. When readiness meets opportunity, movement becomes natural. Do not ignore this inner readiness. It is evidence that preparation has taken root. God is also teaching you to trust provision before visibility. Resources often follow obedience, not precede it. Step forward with trust. God supplies according to purpose, not fear. When you move in alignment, provision aligns. As opportunities unfold, remember to remain teachable even when successful. Growth does not end at breakthrough. Pride halts momentum. Humility sustains it. God continues to instruct those who remain open. You are not being rushed, you are being readied. Every moment of refinement is intentional. Every delay is purposeful. Every challenge is shaping capacity. God's work within you is as significant as the work ahead of you. Remain grounded, remain aware, remain responsive. Opportunity thrives where trust remains active. God's hand is steady, precise, and intentional. What unfolds next will require clarity, courage, and continued reliance. And as you move forward with obedience and discernment, you will recognize the depth of preparation that led you here, the quiet strength that carried you through unseen seasons, and the unfolding alignment that continues to shape each step in accordance with God's will and timing. There is also a strengthening of trust happening beneath the surface. God is teaching you to trust not only when outcomes are favorable, but when outcomes are uncertain. Trust that depends on visible success is fragile, but trust anchored in God remains firm regardless of circumstance. This depth of trust is necessary because some opportunities will require you to move before evidence appears. God may ask you to invest effort where reward is not immediately visible. This is not to exhaust you, but to anchor you more deeply in reliance on divine guidance rather than external validation. God is also training your discernment to recognize false urgency. Not everything that pressures you to act quickly is aligned with divine timing. God's guidance brings clarity, not panic. Learn to distinguish between sure and purpose. Pressure demands haste. Purpose invites confidence. When opportunity is truly from God, it may require courage, but it will not demand anxiety as fuel. Peace does not mean absence of challenge. It means presence of alignment. You may be noticing a growing sensitivity to what drains your spirit. This awareness is part of preparation. God is refining your boundaries. Opportunities that last require boundaries that protect focus. Without boundaries, even good opportunities become burdens. God teaches you to say no without guilt, so that you can say yes with strength. Discernment is not rejection of people, it is protection of purpose. There are also moments when God allows silence to test faith. Silence does not mean absence. It means trust is being strengthened beyond dependence on constant reassurance. God speaks clearly, but not constantly. Learning to move with conviction, even when instruction feels quiet, is part of spiritual maturity. In those moments, remember what God has already confirmed. Do not abandon clarity because of temporary quiet. Opportunities from God often reveal themselves through service before status. God elevates those who are willing to serve with sincerity. Service trains the heart to value impact over recognition. When opportunity comes with visibility, the heart trained in service remains grounded. God is shaping your character so that influence does not distort humility. You may feel an increasing responsibility toward excellence. This is alignment. God honors diligence. Excellence is not perfectionism, it is stewardship. When God entrusts opportunity, God expects care, consistency, and integrity. How you manage details reveals readiness for greater responsibility. Faithfulness in small matters prepares you for influence in larger ones. There is also a strengthening of resilience within you. God knows that opportunity attracts both support and scrutiny. Resilience allows you to remain steady under both praise and criticism. Praise can inflate ego, criticism can deflate confidence. God teaches you to remain anchored, unaffected by extremes. Stability preserves clarity. God may also be teaching you to recognize that not every delay requires intervention. Some delays are protective pauses. Interfering with divine timing can complicate what God intended to simplify. Learn to rest in patience without passivity. Patience trusts that God's hand is active even when movement is not visible. You may notice that God is drawing you toward deeper self-examination. This is not condemnation, it is preparation. God refines from within so that external opportunity does not expose internal weakness. Self-awareness strengthens leadership. Awareness allows correction before consequence. God corrects privately to preserve publicly. Opportunities often require adaptability. God prepares you to adjust without losing identity. Flexibility does not mean compromise. It means remaining aligned while navigating change. God's direction remains constant even when methods shift. Do not resist change if purpose remains intact. There is also a call to deepen gratitude during preparation. Gratitude anchors the heart and guards against entitlement. Entitlement distorts perception. Gratitude sharpens it. Recognize progress even if destination feels distant. God honors gratitude because it reflects trust in provision. You may find that God is inviting you to invest more deeply in wisdom rather than information. Information informs, wisdom guides. Wisdom teaches when to act, when to wait, and when to remain silent. Seek wisdom continually. God grants wisdom generously to those who seek with humility. Opportunities from God also test consistency. Sudden bursts of effort cannot replace steady faithfulness. God values endurance. Endurance proves commitment. When opportunity expands, consistent habits sustain momentum. Discipline protects progress. You are also being trained to release comparison. Comparison clouds vision and distorts timing. God's work in your life is unique. Another person's progress does not diminish yours. God distributes opportunity according to individual purpose. Trust your assignment. As preparation deepens, you may feel a growing sense of responsibility for how you influence others. This is evidence of maturity. Opportunity is not merely about receiving, it is about stewarding influence wisely. God entrusts influence to those who respect its weight. There is also a refining of patience with people. Opportunity often brings collaboration, and collaboration requires grace. God teaches you to respond with wisdom rather than emotion. Emotional reactions can fracture alignment. Wisdom preserves unity. You may sense a shift from asking for signs to recognizing alignment. God moves you from dependence on confirmation to confidence in direction. This confidence is not arrogance, it is settled trust. When direction is clear, move without hesitation. God is also strengthening your ability to endure unseen seasons. Unseen seasons build spiritual endurance. When opportunity arrives, unseen strength sustains visible responsibility. Do not despise the unseen work. It carries weight you will soon recognize. Remain attentive to inner conviction. Conviction guides when options multiply. Opportunity often brings choices. Choices require discernment. Let conviction, not convenience, guide decisions. You are being prepared not just to receive opportunity, but to multiply it. God often gives opportunity as seed. How you steward it determines harvest. Stewardship requires patience, diligence, and trust. Stay anchored in humility. Humility keeps perspective clear. Pride clouds judgment. God entrusts more to those who remain grounded. There is movement unfolding quietly. Alignment is forming. Preparation is deepening. God is creating opportunities not only for progress, but for purpose fulfillment. Continue walking with trust, attentiving, assess, and obedience. Allowing preparation to mature fully. Allowing alignment to settle deeply. Allowing faith to guide each step as the unfolding work of God continues with intention, precision, and unwavering care.